Ah, no, o sea, la música ahorita no se está escuchando. Ya está afuera, ¿no?
Ahora vas aquí, está bien. Sí, sí se ve.
Nada más.
Sí,
Ok, pero ahorita, por ejemplo, ya lo estoy viendo en YouTube.
No, YouTube no está. En YouTube no está nada.
Ahí está ya. Ahí está el audio.
¿En cuál estoy viendo?
Pero ¿qué es lo que estás escuchando?
Las puras voces.
Pero no se debe escuchar ambiental. Están escuchando los micrófonos.
Yo no digo.
¿Aún se ve?
Sí, porque yo no escucho nada acá.
No, no se debe escuchar ahorita nada porque no hay micrófonos.
USB, interfaz. ¿Cuál es el MC 500?
No, yo no escucho nada.
El MC 500. A ver, ahí.
No, yo no escucho nada. No.
Eso es para la salida, para que se vea, pero eso ya no lo ocupa, ¿verdad? Lo vacío yo la.
Ok, sí.
Yo pensé que las capturas que se veían.
Ya no, tú puedes estar.
Por mientras, si llega a pasar, lo ponemos, pero ahorita no se ocupa la banana porque yo voy a entrar a la presentación.
Sí.
Y se veía música.
Ok, entonces.
Y este es el micrófono de la sala. Como se queda en las reuniones donde se está.
Eso está activado, yo creo.
Sí.
A ver, ahí.
Sí, sí, 2 probando, sí, prueba de audio. Esta es una prueba de audio. Sí, 2. Hey, probando, sí. Esta es una prueba de audio. Sí, 2.
Sí se escuchó, Edgar. Todo bien. Que si ya me conecté, Edgar.
Tengo una pregunta.
Mándame.
Ya ves que si no tiene un código QR los pasas a
Voy
mí
Fernando.
y él les genera la asistencia como manual.
Sí.
Pero y luego en los talleres,
Va a pasar Fernando.
va a estar igual.
Tiene que quedar él.
Ah,
No es la red que tiene. Bien, Fernando. Está bien. Sí, sí. Pero ¿por qué no estoy?
¿Qué tal? Buenos días. Estamos a unos minutos de iniciar. Favor de tomar sus asientos. Les pedimos a todos recorrerse en los lugares de manera que no queden lugares vacíos, por favor, para que la gente que va llegando pueda sentarse en los extremos. Nuevamente, si a un lado ustedes tienen algún lugar vacío, favor de recorrerse para que la gente que va llegando pueda sentarse en las partes laterales.
Cuando podamos cortando la distancia, de frente con las metas claras, porque si estamos juntos, nada nos puede juntos, siempre es el momento de estar siempre
Secretary of Education, Emmanuel Garza Fishburne. Please give it up for our.
Cuando podamos acortando la distancia, viendo de frente con las metas claras, porque si estamos juntos, nada nos puede.
All over the state that are joining us today for this important event.
Cuando podamos acortando la distancia, viendo de frente con las metas claras, porque si estamos juntos, nada nos puede. Cuando podamos acortando la distancia, de frente con las metas claras, porque si estamos juntos, nada nos puede.
Please be seated. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to this Encuentro Estatal de Docentes de Ingles. It is my pleasure to introduce the authorities and special guests joining us this morning. Please allow me to introduce our first authority, Maestro Emanuel José de Jesús Garza Fishburne, Secretary of Education. Also, here with us this morning is Mrs. Paola Rodriguez Lopez, Honorary President of Inspira Coahuila. Next, I'm happy to introduce Maestra Cecilia Ileana de la Garza Martinez, General Director of Inspira Coahuila. And we also have Professor Jorge Alberto Salcido Portillo, Undersecretary of Basic Education. Let us greet our next authority, Maestro Rubén Barragán Páramo from the General Coordination of Normal Education and Teacher Professional Development. Please welcome Professor Luis Ángel Domingo Cerecero Rodríguez. He is in charge of the State Department of English and PRONI. Now, it is time to introduce our very special guests. First, we have Professor Melchor Maldonado Jiménez, Technical Secretary of Basic Education. Maestro Edgar Alejandro Veloz Pachicano, he's the General Director of Elementary Education. Ingeniera Ada Melina Cos Horta, she's the General Director of Middle Education. Licenciada Beatriz Margarita Brondo Morales, in representation of Shenin Garcia Posada, Undersecretary of High School Education. Professor Juan Aguilera Rangel, in representation of Melissa Suárez Elguezabal, Undersecretary of Higher Education. And of course, we also have the workshop experts joining us today. First, we have Rosalina Valles Molina. She's a socio-emotional education instructor for Atentamente Consultores. Paul Mock Islas, Academic Services Director of Talisis. He founded Camino 21st Company, which impacts 10,000 educators across 30 universities in Latin America. Juan Antonio González Torres. He's an academic director of Harmon Hall with more than 16 years of experience in academics, customer service, and quality, among other areas. Also with us is Mónica Irene Cantumaltos. She's an academic consultant, teacher trainer, and material developer. Talina Soto Ayala. She's an experienced educator with a career of more than 15 years, certified in Mexican Sign Language, skilled in human development, emotional intelligence, and instructional training. Next, we have a very special guest who traveled thousands of kilometers to be here today. Tariq Umar. Mr. Umar was born in Pakistan and is currently living in the United Kingdom, where he's working for the University of the West of England. He has traveled from the UK to visit Mexico for the first time, and he's here to share with us all the experience he has acquired over many years training English teachers in different countries around the world. Gisela Noriki Ortiz Hernandez, an ELF professor since 2008. She holds a business administration bachelor's and a master's in English language teaching from the University of Southampton in the United Kingdom. Rosa Cecilia Quintana. She has been teaching ELF for over 20 years, currently a coordinator of the English program at the University of Autónoma de Coahuila. She holds a master's degree in arts in English language teaching, also from the University of Southampton in the United Kingdom. Shelley Eckert. Today, Shelley will be conducting a live virtual workshop from Canada. She currently works at Lambton College, and she's an outstanding professor with more than 20 years of experience in teaching and learning. Last but not least, we also have a very special guest, Dulce Vanessa Pérez Sosa is a fourth grader from Presidente Benito Juárez Elementary School.
Hello, good morning. My name is Dulce Vanessa Pérez Sosa. I am 9 years old. I live in Saltillo with my mom and my dad. I am studying fourth grade at Presidente Benito Juárez Garcia Elementary School. When I grow up, I don't like to be a chef because I want to make people happy. I know that every day I go to school. I am one step closer to make all my dreams come true. But I know that I need to speak a little bit more English, and my classmates learn to learn it too. That way, we will have better opportunities here in Coahuila, in Mexico, but also around the world. Today, I want to thank you, all the English teachers that inspire us every day to be better. Thank you for teaching us and the sky is the limit. In your house, we have your family, but at the school, we have your English teachers. Thank you for everything you do for us. Thank you so much.
Now, please join me to welcome Mrs. Paola Rodriguez Lopez, Honorary President of Inspira, Coahuila.
Good morning, everyone. It's great to see you all here. Thank you all for coming. Dulce Vanessa, thank you for sharing. It is inspiring for all of us to listen to you. You and your fellow classmates in Coahuila are the reason we are all here today. All of us want you students to have a better present and future and to excel in whatever you may choose to do when you grow up. It is both an honor and a privilege to be here, standing before such a dedicated group of teachers and coordinators of the English program in Coahuila. Your commitment to sharing the future of your students, to fostering not just language skills, but also a sense of global connection is something remarkable. I'd like to begin with why I'm here today. When Manolo shared his desire to run for governor, I felt many emotions, pride, fear, and hope among them. But most of all, I felt a sense of peace because I knew that he would put all of his heart and soul into governing and that his priorities are making Coahuila a better state for this generation and the ones to come. Once he won and the election was over, he invited me to join his administration. At first, I wondered how I could help him when we have 4 young children at home. But as I reflected, I asked myself, in 6 years from now, how am I going to look back and know I made a difference? This question led me to discuss creating a role where I could help support his goals for the people in Coahuila and at the same time, focus on topics which I was passionate about. And that is how Inspira was born. Through Inspira, we aim to create real positive changes in our communities by working on strategic projects together with other institutions to meet our state's needs. Our work focuses mainly on 5 areas: mental health, education, women, youth, and community. Speaking of education, did you know that only 11% of professionals in Mexico are proficient in English? Speaking English fluently is increasingly necessary for job opportunities in Coahuila, given the number of foreign companies that we have here. Through a coordinated effort with the team of Ministry of Education, to whom I'm really thankful for, Inspira is leading a program to improve English learning at all academic levels. We want to reach communities that haven't had access to English instruction before and develop bilingual teaching resources so that children can learn English naturally. But of course, we need you to make it possible. We want to do this by your side as the amazing team we all are. We are also seeking to work with experts and partners to accompany us in this process of strengthening the language through courses, training, coaching, materials, or specific projects to achieve our goal. We have been working close to the U.S. Embassy, Teach for America, Universidad Autónoma de Coahuila, and many more. But let's talk about today. Today is all about you. With the great experts that are here with us today, you will have the opportunity to improve teaching strategies, networking, and enhance your professional growth. First, you will have a self-care session so that you can take a deep breath and reset your mind and body. Then, you will have workshops with local, national, and international experts. After that, we have some surprises for you. In Inspira, we always use the phrase, what you feel matters. We want to listen to everything you would like to share with us. Therefore, we are also going to have time for dialogue to share your thoughts, ideas, and insight. As English teachers in Mexico, you are at the crossroads of cultures, facilitating the bridge between two languages, two worlds. You are not just teaching grammar and vocabulary. You are imparting the tools that open doors to new opportunities, experiences, and perspectives. The role you play in the lives of students is invaluable. So thank you. Thank you all for your hard work, for all your effort. I know that the journey of teaching is not always easy. There are days when being a teacher feels overwhelming. You might question whether your efforts are truly making a difference, especially with the obstacles like large classes, limited resources, or diverse student needs. It is in these moments that I encourage you to remember your impact is profound, even when you cannot immediately see it. So I leave you with this message. Keep going, keep inspiring, keep believing. You are not just teaching a language. You are nurturing the leaders, innovators, and global citizens of the future. I am a firm believer that education is the key to success and a brighter future. And through Inspira, we want to help make a meaningful difference. Let's continue to make Coahuila a better place, one lesson at a time. Thank you.
Now, for the last section of this opening ceremony, please allow me to introduce our Secretary of Education, Emmanuel Garza Fishburne.
Well, good morning, everybody. How are you feeling? Excellent. What a wonderful, wonderful opportunity to be together this morning. And I deeply want to appreciate all the effort, all the love that was put up for this event. I want to thank especially all the team from Inspira, all the team from the Ministry of Education, and especially the presence and all the dedication of all of you that made it from all the corners of our state to be here. So big, big applause for all of you, please. Thank you so very much. It's truly wonderful to have this space, as our dear Senora Paola was sharing, a space for personal growth, for inner work, but especially to continue to strengthen all our capacities, our purpose towards this very important and significant agenda for global education in our state. And part of the intention with my very brief intervention this morning is to share a little bit of the overview of where English incorporates to the general strategy of education in our state. So if you allow me, I'll go through this process through the presentation. If you can please go ahead and present here in the screen. We'll go through the general elements of what the Impulso Educativo strategy has in mind. What are the significant pillars that are part of this program? And then we'll go into what global education is within this large strategy and share a little bit about the different programs that we have here for all of you. Go ahead, please. Okay, well, in first place, it's very important to understand that for our governor, Manolo Jimenez Salinas, education is a key cornerstone for the development of our state. It is very clear both for him and for Senora Paola and for all the team in the Ministry of Education and of course in the state government that without the proper conditions for education in our state, we will be continuing to mine the possibilities and the opportunities for the well-being and for the development, not only for our young, our children, but also for our state, because many of the elements that allow us to be a great state as we are, the great state of Coahuila, require the strengthening of capacities, but the underside, the strengthening of opportunities in our state. So that is why education is very important. And the governor has been very keen in putting in the table a comprehensive strategy that we're calling Impulso Educativo Coahuila. If we can go ahead with the next slide, please. There are many conditions that allow us to go into this mindset of very profound transformation in education in the state. We have very favorable conditions for this to happen. The first of all is this level of commitment and the level of conviction that I just shared about. The governor and all the state government, and not only from the government, but from various sectors of society, there is a clear understanding of the relevance of this. But there's also very favorable economic context that we must harness in the favor of our population. There's stability in the job market, there's public safety. Unfortunately, these are not conditions that are present in the rest of our country. So these are elements that we must have present as we want to accomplish what we have in mind in the educational front in our state. Of course, the rule of law, but also something very important. We have many sectors of society that want to work side by side with us in strengthening the education in our state. The private sector, the international organizations, civil society, and many specialized institutions that are coming in to be partners with us in this large effort. Go ahead, please. What are the guiding principles for this strategy? It was very important to not just come into identifying the priorities, but try to have certain principles that guided us in setting up this Impulso Educativo strategy. Number one, to understand that education is a task for all the members and sectors of our community. If you could please put back the presentation in the front screens, thank you. We have the private sector, we have civil society, international organizations, we're all working as one team, and we need to be involved. We need to have them involved in this effort. The involvement of interest groups that are already part of the system. So we've been very keen in touching base with our students, with our parents, with our teachers, with the managerial structures of the ministry, with our schools, with our neighbors inclusive. And all this is allowing us to have a very diverse perspective of what's needed for education in the state. We're starting also from a very clear diagnosis of what's the current reality and all the elements of our educational challenges. Very important to ensure an alignment and continuity of the efforts. So instead of having bits and pieces of different efforts, we're trying to align everything strategically so that it all connects and allow us to go in a very comprehensive manner towards the future. Very important also to have a systemic perspective, because of course we're not dealing with simple challenges. What we're having to face are problems and challenges that are complex, to have many variables in play. And that's why it's very important to have a systemic perspective of what's needed and where are the turning points in that system where we can have the most impact for our population. Of course, validate the feasibility of the efforts, consider the short, medium, and long-term perspective. And something very important for this first academic cycle 24-25 is that we're starting with pilot programs where we can identify, improve, and ensure that these strategies can have a scalability and an impact down the road. So these are the guiding principles that allowed us to set up Impulso Educativo Coahuila. Can we go ahead with the next, please? So as you know, this strategy has this very significant focus. We're concentrating our efforts in 10 big pillars, strategic lines of action that are allowing us to connect with what the governor found during his election process and during all the consultation that we've been doing in the past months to ensure that the proper focus on the priorities is there. The next, please. One more. And here's the model. As you can see, at the core of the education strategy, we're identifying the community that's part of Impulso Educativo Coahuila. We have to start from who is involved. Where is the heart of the matter? Where is the will? Where is the conviction? And we're identifying that, especially in our educators. And I want to deeply appreciate the role, the contribution, the presence that each one of you has in the educational front. Nothing that we can imagine as a state, as a country, cannot happen if it's not through that conviction, that presence, loving presence that you all have with your students. So you are the main pillars of that community. But of course, that requires also a level of collaboration from the families that are involved, from our students, of course, because they're at the last, the ultimate architects of their own destiny, our neighbors and the allies, the partners that we're putting into the process. Starting from that core, which is our community, we have these 10 pillars that are focused on the priorities for the government. If you can please bring back the presentation to the front. So we have 10 priorities. I'll go through each one of them. Educational leadership is one of the cornerstones of the strategy. We want to strengthen and ensure that each one of the partners that we have in this process have a very deep awareness and commitment towards what we want to accomplish. So we're having various programs focused on strengthening this leadership. Also strengthening the institutional capacities of the ministry across the board, starting from the managerial processes, our continuous improvement, our strategic alignment. Also a third pillar focused on the learning essentials, something that we've been identifying and which is a very, very critical condition that we're facing as a humankind across the globe, is what's been called the poverty of learning essentials. So we're finding that a very big part of our population, our student population, is not being able to comprehend what they read when they're 10 years old. And this is across the board. It was a little under 50% prior to the pandemic. After the pandemic, it has grown over 90% across the world. So we have a very critical task to be able to strengthen these very essential skills in our students so that they can continue their learning process based on these foundations. So we have many pilots focused on those learning essentials. Educational infrastructure, as you know, our schools need to strengthen their institutional capacity and infrastructure in a very significant way. We've had a very comprehensive diagnosis of what the gap is in that matter, and the governor is being very adamant in making the proper investments needed for that level. We have sports and nutrition that's very connected to mental health, as Senora Paola was sharing this morning. Educational equity, which means expanding access to educational opportunity across the system. Technological development, education for democratic citizenship, which is also a very significant element of our challenge. Social emotional learning, which is also something significantly important in our current system. And at the end, global education, which we'll be going into more focus in a moment. All these pillars are focused on three general dimensions of impact. And they have to do with how we are doing with our relationship with ourselves, how we are strengthening our relationship with our community, and at the end, how our presence is also having a positive contribution in our relationship to our planet. These three relationships are in the cornerstone of our lives, of our well-being, of our development. And that's why all the focus of our educational strategy will be impacting positively in those three dimensions. If we can go to the next, please. Having an overview of what the strategy represents for this current academic cycle, we're having an overall investment of 710 million pesos that are benefiting a little over 6,200 schools, 53,000 teachers, a little over 1 million students. These are members of our communities that are being benefited with at least one of these strategic projects of the 10 pillars that I just shared. We're doing this by the hand with 40 allies, 40 partners that are coming in from civil society, from the private sector, corporate foundations, international organizations that are supporting this work. And this is all focused on 54 strategic pilot programs that are part of these 10 pillars of the strategy. So as you can see, we're being very ambitious in what we want to accomplish. We want to make sure that this academic cycle provide us with all the information we need with these pilot experiences and programs to make sure that whatever comes down the road in the next academic cycles can have the scalability we need and can become institutional capacity in the long run for our state. Next, please. So now, the heart of the matter. One of those 10 pillars, as I mentioned, is global education. Senora Paola was very clear about the relevance of global education in our world. It's not only the language, it's not only having access to a language that will allow us to connect, to collaborate, to understand other peoples, other cultures, but also a very necessary tool so that we can go into this new stage of economic and social development in our state. Coahuila is a leader in this field. And I want to recognize the effort in these last 30 years that this team that's here and all those who have been part of this effort, we've been leaders in the task of bringing English as a second language to our world, to our country. We're nationally recognized for this matter, and I deeply want to appreciate and recognize that leadership in each one of all of you. In this effort that we're trying to set up, and this is very important to appreciate the energy and the commitment and the contribution from all the team of Inspira, Coahuila, and of course, making this general team with all of us here present, is to really harness this collective energy we have to not only bring the English as a second language to our state, but also to go forward in building this culture of global citizenship. We need to become leaders, not only in our regions, in our state, but also in the world. And Coahuila has this very special opportunity right now to harness that power. And the ones that are here, everybody that's part of this team today is going to allow us to go very straight and strong and towards that common objective. Something very important is that this effort we're doing side by side with Inspira, and we're very focused in setting up 6 pilot initiatives that are allowing us to unify the learning process towards the common European framework of reference for languages. This is going to allow us to be able to diagnose the proficiency levels of all our students, but also of all our team, so we can go forward in the proficiency we need in all the levels. If we can go to the next, please. What are the main features of the pilot programs we have in line for this academic cycle? We are organizing the student groups according to their proficiency levels, with a prior diagnosis of what that level is. This is allowing us that each student has what's needed to be able to advance to the next level in their proficiency. And that's something very important. The next, please. Another element, as I mentioned, is that all the skills and the contents of our academic program is based on this common European framework, which is very important so that we have an alignment of what we want to accomplish, those competencies, those skills, for them to be very clear and based on a common study program. And of course, aiming to increase this proficiency by at least 1 sub-level per school term. So we want to make sure that this experience is allowing our children, allowing our youth that are part of these pilot programs to advance in that direction. Next, please. So what are the programs that we have within the global education realm for this academic cycle? Of course, the National English Program, we will look into a little bit of detail right now. Teach for All, Mexico. And we have 4 different programs strengthening the learning process for the English language in middle school, in high school, in our universities, and in our teacher training colleges. So we'll go into a little bit of detail in each one of these. Go ahead, please. So as you all know, and most of you here are the leaders that have been promoting our National English Program in our state. As I mentioned, we've had a very clear leadership in this effort in the previous years, and we want to recognize that we continue to strengthen this program. Of course, this encounter this morning is part of that agenda, and I'll share a little bit of where we are in terms of coverage of our program currently. Go ahead, please. Next, there we go. So in terms of coverage, considering the 5 main regions of our state, we have a total of basic primary education schools of 613 based on the combination between state schools and federal schools. Let's go to the next, please. In terms of the population we're serving, we have a little over 287,000 students already, considering those that are participating in middle school, a little over 1,200 teachers, and a little over 941 schools that are currently involved in our National English Program. As you know, through this program, and especially for our visitors that are here, our students are getting 3 English hours per week, through which they receive the contents and the learning opportunities based on this National English Program. A little over 58% of our elementary school students in the state receive English classes based on this initiative in particular. Next, please. The second pilot that we have is Teach for All, Mexico. This is a collaboration that we have with one of our external partners. I don't know if you're all familiar with Teach for All, but this is an international organization that allows for recently graduated students from leading universities across the world to dedicate 2 years of their lives professionally to strengthen the educational field. And in this particular pilot, we received a little over 9 teachers that are participating in 10 elementary schools that are not part of the PRONI program. They're not part of the National English Program. And this is allowing us to bring the experience of English learning to a little over 1,200 students in these schools. Next, please. We are very focused on allowing this pilot program to bring educational opportunity based on the English language for a region that has been with very low coverage, which is the center of our state. Basically, the municipalities of Candela, Progreso, La Madrid, Sacramento, Escobedo, and Abasolo. Here are the schools that are currently involved in this program. And as I mentioned, all our programs that are being piloted have these common elements of identifying where our students are and their proficiency, organizing the student groups based on that level of proficiency, getting the teachers also involved in a professional development based on their personal levels of proficiency. And of course, all this aligns to the common European reference. So this is where the pilot for the Enseña por México or Teach for All program is working in our state. Next, please. We also have the program, as we mentioned, in middle school. We selected 10 middle schools with a little over 20 teachers that are impacting a little over 3,200 students in this particular level. We can go to the next, please, so you can see where these schools are. As you can see, we have presence in basically all the regions of the state. And as I mentioned, these common elements of the organizing the groups per proficiency level, the common European platform, the proficiency level of teachers, and the common program are part of this pilot as well. Next, please. The same going up to high school. This has been also a very interesting part of the experience. We have very, very significant collaboration with our subsystems in the high school education system. So we have 2 schools from CONALEP, 3 from COVAC, and 5 from CECITEC, EMSAD, with a little over 30 teachers and having an impact on 5,000 students, where all these common elements that we already shared are present, benefiting these schools. Next, please. The same in the higher education. Here we're focusing on 3 higher education institutions of our public school system, the Tecnológico de Acuña, Tecnológico de Monclova, and Tecnológico of Región Carbonífera, where we're having also the presence and leadership of 30 teachers engaged and a little over 2,000 students being benefited by this initiative. And last but not least, the next, please, we have this same program working in our teacher training schools, in our teacher training colleges, our escuelas normales. Here we have 9 of them that are currently engaged in this initiative with 45 teachers and having a scope of a little over 1,800 students also receiving these common traits that we mentioned earlier. Next, please. And as we mentioned, of course, we have a very good collection of partners that are being involved in this effort. Having Inspira as our cornerstone in this very significant partnership with all of us here present, and the very significant engagement by the USA Embassy, the Anglo Foundation, Oxford Education, Cambridge University, Teach for All with its chapter Enseña por México here in our country, the Universidad Autónoma de Coahuila, Norte Capital, and Fundación de Acero. Each one of these are contributing to these efforts financially, technically, and with all the elements that are needed so that these pilot programs can make it to the final objective we've set up. Next, please. So in a nutshell, not a 5-minute nutshell, but maybe a 15-minute nutshell. This is what we're trying to accomplish in Impulso Educativo Coahuila, and particularly in our global education agenda. I want to be very, very, very clear that we are deeply, deeply thankful for the love, for the commitment, for the presence, for all the care that each one of you are bringing to our students in each one of our participating schools. There's nothing more important than strengthening that level of connection, that level of commitment. And as you can see, we have stars all across our strategies in the state government. Well, that star is represented by the heart of each one of you. You are those very, very bright beams of light that are bringing opportunity, that are bringing hope to each one of our students. And we're assured that if we can continue to work together, if we can continue to walk together towards these very, very ambitious but very significant objectives, we are going to be changing the lives of many in our state. So thank you so very much. And it's a privilege, a blessing, an honor to be able to walk and to build with all of you. Thank you very much.
Now, please, we're asking everyone to stand up for a group photo. And if you can, move towards the center so everyone can be in the picture. Thank you. Please be seated. Now, due to their busy schedules, some of our authorities and guests must leave. However, the rest of us will remain here as we have two important and informative presentations. So please remain in your seats as our authorities leave the premises. Just give him a round of applause. And please give another big round of applause to yourselves for being here today. Our mental health is primordial in our everyday life, and it is just as important as our physical health. Next, let's receive Rosalinda Valles Molina, who is bringing us a self-care session.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I'm just going to put it here. Yeah, don't worry. I will use it. Use it later. I am very happy to be here with you, and I want to thank you in advance for your time and your attention. I hope you're having an excellent morning. Anytime that we do anything different from our regular routine is excellent, right? It feels good when it's a good event. All right. The talk that I have here for you is called A Call for Self-Care. And here I'm going to talk to you about some very interesting information about stress management. My name is Rosalina Valles, like they already kindly introduced me. Next, please. And I come in behalf of Atentamente Consultores. We are a nonprofit association, and we focus on social transformation by providing tools to individuals. And these tools are supported by cutting-edge research, especially in neurosciences. I love the fact that we are supported by individuals and institutes that do things as beautiful as researching happiness. That must be a really nice career, right? Next, please. Now, I hope that this talk is fun for you, that you are comfortable, and that if you want to share something, you feel safe. All right? So for that, I propose to you the following agreements. Next, please. First, that all of our interventions are kind and respectful. Kind and respectful. I think we all know what that looks like. Number two, that our cell phones remain off or in mute. It's only a 45 minutes talk. It's not that long, I think. Of course, if you have anything that you're expecting, you can keep your phone in mute. And last of all, confidentiality, that if you want to expose something personal, that it will remain in this room, just for safety and our peace of mind. And can you put it back? Yes, thank you. To start off, I want you to do an exercise of remembering, all right? You are going to answer 3 questions. Number 1, your complete name. Number 2, what's the song that was your favorite when you were in high school? And number 3, you're going to say something that stresses you out. And for this, you are going to gather in groups of 3 people. And I want to give you 3 minutes for this. And when I do this, it's time to sit back and pay attention up here again. All right? 3 minutes starting now. Share with 3 people around you. Your complete name. Stand up, please. Stand up. Let's shake a little bit. Complete name, if you don't know each other. Your favorite song from high school. And one thing that stresses you out. One more minute. Hello. Attention over here, please. Thank you back there. Thank you. Can you keep your hand up? Thank you. Thank you. Nice. We're almost there. Okay, you can take your seat back. Thank you so much. Because you remember your song? Maybe it's different. All right. The search of well-being. I think we are all in that. Next, please. We're all in this search. Well, actually, well-being is a variation of states. We cannot always be feeling discomfort. We are not always feeling absolutely well. We are in between. And what lays between us and the well-being? What stops us from getting there? Well, we've asked many groups of people these same questions, and these are the most common answers that we've gotten before. Next, please. I'm sure all of you identify with at least one of these, if not all of these. And if you haven't experienced all of this, for sure you know someone who has experienced some of those, right? Human experience is shared. So anytime we need help with this, for sure we can find someone who will at least listen to us, because we all go through the same. Next, please. So in order to understand what lays between us and well-being, we need to put all the factors that cause discomfort in us on the table. That way we can start approaching them and then figuring them out, right? So in that sense, I want to make a test for you so I can know what level of stress this room is at. So with this test, I will know if you are slightly stressed, if you are mildly stressed, or if you are burnout. Next, please. This test is scientifically designed, so I will show you two dolphins, and if you see some light differences between them, then you are in some stress. If you see more than slight differences, then you may be experiencing high levels of stress. For this, I want you to blink 3 times, please, before I show you the picture. 1, 2, 3, next. It's a joke. Of course it is a joke. I saw a very worried face over there. Don't worry, you are not going crazy. These are 2 mammals. One is happier than the other one because they know how to swim much better. It's a joke. All right. I'm going to do another test. It's not as accurate as this one. It's the stressometer. Next, please. Probably 2 or 3 clicks. Next. Okay, there. And I'm going to ask you some questions. And with your thumb, you are going to tell me how frequently you experience these situations. This way, I'm going to know if this room is, in average, relaxed, calm, moderate, in high stress, or burnt out. So next, please. With your thumb up, you're going to tell me if you've experienced this very frequently or frequently. With your thumb sideways, occasionally, and with your thumb down, rarely. All right? I'm going to omit the never because I'm sorry I don't see here any Jesuses or Buddhas. So we are all experiencing stress sometimes at least. Next, please. How often in the last month have you felt nervous or stressed? Thank you. Number 2, next. How often last month have you felt upset because things were out of your control? Okay, thank you. Next. How often have you felt emotionally exhausted? Thank you. Last one. Next, please. How often have you felt that you are to the limit of your capabilities? Like you can't take it anymore. Okay. All right. Thank you. Thank you. So I'm going to say, thanks so much. Can you hold this? Thanks. All right. So from what I watched, I will consider this room is in a state of moderate stress, all right? I think the first rows present more stress. With big responsibilities come big challenges, of course, but also on the back, the situation today helps to be less stressed. Okay, so thank you for your honesty. And let me continue, let me see. All right. I'm talking about stress as a single thing, but it actually comprehends a lot of emotions and situations, all right? Emotions could be anger, frustration, sadness. Situations can be tiredness. You feel tired when you are stressed. And it is officially, it is considered, or scientifically, it is considered that a person experiences stress when the demands upon them exceed their resources. Now, where are the demands upon us? Work, family, society, but also here, right? We all experience our own demands. We need to have some demands, right? For our own. And where do we get the resources from? Where are our resources? Okay, you have some in your backpacks or in your bags. You have resources in your classrooms. You have resources in your colleagues, but we also get resources from here and from here. Okay, so this is important because what is in our control, out there or in here and in here? It's easier to take charge of this. What do you see here? Prey and predator. There are two animals. Which of these do you think is stress there? Both of them are actually experiencing stress. The cheetah needs to feed, and the gazelle wants to run for its life. Okay? Stress is a natural evolutive response. Stress is that impulses you to act. That's why you feel it so powerfully inside you. It makes you want to move, to act. Okay? The difference is that between natural stress and the stress that sometimes we experience is that I can assure you that these two animals, 15 minutes after this picture was taken, they are out of stress. They are resting completely. Why? Maybe the cheetah got the gazelle and it is eating, very relaxed, and the gazelle doesn't feel anything anymore. Or maybe the gazelle ran away and it is pasturing already, and the cheetah is resting, waiting for the next chance to catch a prey. The cheetah is not worrying, oh, when I'm going to have the next chance, I made a bad move over there. It's not stressing out, it's resting for the next opportunity. But us humans, we sometimes create cheetahs, lions, bears chasing us over and over again. Sometimes we don't let those predators go away. So our body is in a state of constant stress. That is called chronic stress. This is a natural response of stress. We have a stimulus, something is presented to us, and there is a load. We start experiencing stress, we go through the experience, the stimulus disappears, and there comes the unload. This forms what we call the resilience zone, from which we can learn and we can rest also. But have you felt sometimes as you are incapable of learning, of resting from a situation because it just never ends? That's chronic stress. We expose ourselves to such high peaks of stress and for so long, that we don't have the opportunity to get resilient from this. We just get burned out. We have exhaustion and we get hyperreactive. Have people around you told you at any time, what's wrong with you? Or why are you so reactive all the time? Or why do you look so tired lately? Okay, it could be one of the reasons. The chronic stress has a big impact in all of the aspects of our lives: cognitive and emotional, physical, and behavioral. Have you experienced any of this? Are you experiencing any of this right now? Yeah, right. And the physical symptoms, they accumulate over time. Like when we were young, we would get some heartburn and then we have an ulcer, okay? So this comprehends all the aspects of our lives. They also impact negatively our relationships. And unfortunately, it is our closest relationship, our dearest ones, that are affected the most, simply because we spend more time with them, or because maybe we feel safe enough to explode with them. It can become burnout when we lose our sense of purpose, when we don't know anymore what are we doing or why are we doing it for. It's basically like going through life as zombies. Have you experienced that sometimes in your life? And it's awful when you are doing hard work. Teaching is hard. You have the lives of, if you are in basic education, you have the lives of the kids in your hands, because besides teaching them English, you have to take care of them because they want to kill each other at sometimes, right? Now, stress is closely related to performance. I told you before, stress is not bad. On this side, we have very low stress. The demands upon us are low and our resources are high. Generally, it's our energy. We have too much energy for very low demands, and we can feel bored. In the other extremes, the demands are too high for our resources, and we can experience these natural responses: flight, flee, or freeze. But in the middle, when we equate our resources to the demands, we have the optimal performance. When a problem comes out, we see it as a challenge, and we want to figure it out, and we feel great. So we want to get to this point. So it's not about managing the exterior resources. It's about managing what is in our hands, up here, and also maybe getting rid of some stressors that are not very real. This is the same graphic, but different minds like different presentations. So in this side, we have low demand, low performance. The other side, high demands, high stress, also low performance, but also meltdown. And in the middle, we have the optimal performance. If you are curious about this topic, look for the Jerkes and Dodson theory of stress. It's very interesting. You can learn different tips to manage stress. What are the causes of stress? Okay, when I count to 3, I want you to say out loud one thing that causes stress for you. 1, 2, 3. Word. Thank you. I hope you felt free to express. Look. Wow. Beautiful. How about someone came and took you from the shoulders and drop you right there in the middle of that huge wave? How would you feel? Stressed, terrified, scared? Of course. I love swimming and I love open ocean, but I will just be drowned already. How do you think this person here feels? Free. relaxed, confident, powerful, maybe. What is the difference between this surfer and you or me? Skills. Do you think this surfer was born a surfer? Absolutely not. Maybe some physical aptitude. But this man, at some point of his life, got the motivation and determination to learn how to balance himself on the board, how to know the ocean and learn from it, and how to catch such a wave to a point that now he's enjoying. That's probably the best part of his day, his week, probably. That's right. Now, none of us are professional surfers, but we all live in an ocean. Our life is an ocean, and we all want to develop skills that help us navigate this ocean of our lives. Turns out that is not the situation that causes stress, but the way we relate to that situation, what we make up in our brains about a situation. Do you know anyone who is super chill, that in moments of tension, they are like, yeah, whatever, it's fine. And you're like, you want to shake them up? Sometimes that's the student, right? You want to shake them up and they just won't react. So that's proof that everyone relates differently to the same situation. And it is in our power to change the way we relate to this stimulus. It's how we perceive. Now, what do you see? How do you see this elephant? Scared, stiff, okay? Stress causes some symptoms in our bodies. And changing what happens in our body is not easy to revert. We don't get better from a cold overnight. Our bones don't heal in 2 or 3 days if we break them. It takes time. But how about when we are maybe very sad, maybe at a funeral of a close one, and then someone comes and tell you a funny story, and then you start laughing. Has it happened to you? And it changes your mind. Or you are very calm, just enjoying life, and someone comes and tells you some bad news, and then all of a sudden, everything is worry. Have you experienced that? So what happens in here, it's way easier to change than what happens throughout our body. And that is really good news because we have power over it. Maybe you thought that it is your personality to be stressed. It is your personality to be worried. It is your personality to be angry. But that's actually something that we have cultivated over time. And if we start cultivating different things, we can get different results, different experiences. If we can transform our minds, we can change the relationship with the object, and our whole experience will change. Have you heard of Viktor Frankl? Yes, he was a psychiatrist, survivor of the Jewish Holocaust. And he had this very interesting quote: when we are no longer able to change a situation, we are challenged to change ourselves. When I ask you, tell me something that stresses you out, you all said something from the outside: family, work, economy, society, something that you have to do later. Okay? How many of those things can you change? Are you in control of all of those? No, there are actually very few things that are in our control, very few. We even think that we have control over our family, our partner, our kids. We don't. But we like to think we do, right? Now, what aspects of the mind can we change? There are several aspects, but because this talk is not too long, I'm going to focus on attention. Why attention? You are all grown-ups. You may have already noticed that we tend to have an unbalanced attention. Okay? And the main unbalances of attention are distraction, number one, when you are trying to focus on something, but you get distracted on one stimulus and another, and one thought and another. Lack of calm and clarity, when you want to go deep into a problem, but you stay in the surface because you don't have the clarity to solve it out. And fixation, when you are attached to a thought, like the compulsive thoughts that blur our minds, like this thought here. Good morning, allow me to introduce myself. I'm a recurring thought and I will be accompanying you the rest of the day. It's not asking permission. It's just telling her he'll be there. That doesn't look like voluntary attention. These imbalances of attention have a role in all aspects of our life, because we talk about attention and we think, oh, it's only when I'm trying to study on or complete a task. But they have a role in every aspect of our life, including how we sleep or don't sleep, of course. They affect how you are feeling and how you are behaving all the time. Have you thought that the inability to focus or to manage your attention takes freedom away from you? Why freedom? Because we have our deep values, our very desired goals long-term, but if we run after one situation, we keep just reacting to the stimulus, then we lose sight of the biggest picture. And that way, we lose some of our freedom there. Okay, I'm going to make you move again. Stand up, please. Stand up, just a couple minutes. Okay, stretch, stretch, reach the ceiling. Very high. Reach the corner of the room. Like you're in a roller coaster, the other corner of the room. Thank you. Okay, I wanted to show you a riddle. Let's see how many of you know it or catch it. A riddle. This doesn't matter. This is 1. This is 2. What is this? I heard some good answers there. Okay, again. This one doesn't matter. This is 1. This is 2. This is 3. What's this? More good answers. Nice. Last one, see if you catch it. Okay, this one doesn't matter. This one is 0. This one is 5. This is 2. What is this? 3. You can tell the rest of the group at the end of the talk. Thank you. Take your seat. You will catch it eventually. It's just to wake your mind up. So we call this unbalanced mind the monkey mind. Our mind is a monkey running from one place to another. Imagine a house, and that house has, and this house has 6 windows, and there's a monkey living inside the house, and the monkey is reaching through one window, another window, another window, and just catching a glimpse from each of the windows. Those 6 windows are our senses: sight, smell, taste, touch, hearing, and the mental sense, our thoughts. So we only have one monkey in our mind. I'm sorry to tell you this, but multitasking is a lie. If you put your attention away from a task, you are putting your efficacy, your efficiency away. The more you focus in one single point, the faster and the better you will figure it out. That's a monkey mind. It's crazy. But we can also train to balance our attention to get an everyday better balanced attention. What are the benefits of it? Instead of having a distracted mind, we get a present mind. Instead of having a fuzzy mind, it is calm and clear, like this lake. It is so clear that we can see the depths of it, the bottom of it, but we can also see the landscape. And instead of our attention being fixated to something, we can focus it to wherever we want. Is it possible to train? Yes, thanks to neuroplasticity. You may have heard this term before. It is a process in which our brain creates pathways with the neurons to create conducts. That is why you scream when some of your kids is in danger. You have created this pattern. That's why you get mad when someone is rude to you. Okay? Have you thought about it? When someone is rude to you, do you get mad? No? Okay, I saw a lot of yes and also lots of no's. That's magical. Why do I get mad when someone is rude to me? Because it is a natural thing. They are being rude. I have to get mad, of course. They're hurting me. Have you thought that there could be a different reaction? And actually, there's people here that actually have this different reaction. It's just that I have cultivated the habit of getting mad every time this happens. And that's pretty silly because it happens often. I drive on the streets and people is mad when they're driving. So I get mad every day. That's pretty tiring. Would I like to change the way I react? Yes. I can abandon the habits that doesn't help to my personal development, and I can cultivate new habits that will help me. But first, I have to identify what I want to change. Identify, then question, then cultivate new habits. And it's going to be hard at the beginning. It's like making a new path or a new trail. Have you gone hiking in the past? Have you been hiking in a mountain? Okay. Most of the times we go through a trail that is already made, but we can make a new trail, and it's going to be hard at the beginning, but after 2 months, 1 year of walking through it, it's going to get way easier. Now, how do we train attention? Through attending the breathing, awareness of the breath. We want that monkey to be nice, calm, chill, comfortable, so we can focus on whatever we need to focus. All right? Why do we use our breath? Simple reasons. It's always with you, and it is for free. Okay? If I give you a sentence or I cannot always rely on remembering it. If I give you a picture, you have to be carrying the picture everywhere. But our breath is going to be with you for all the time that you are alive. The benefits of training our mind are this and more. The ones that are my favorite are it improves making decisions. It reduces emotional fatigue. That's important for me. And it makes me happier. But you may find what's your favorite benefit from training attention. So what is this about? Okay, that's why I needed my big prompt, my chair. All right, I'm going to give you the steps and then we're going to do it together. So we need to have a straight back, Now, right now you are sitting on a chair, but you can do this at home laying down, just making sure that the pillow doesn't push your head too much. Straight back. Number 2. I'm going to move, sorry. Yes. Number 2, relax body and mind. We're going to do that through exhaling. Number 3, paying attention to our breathing. And number 4, coming back to our breath every time we get distracted. Okay, so sit straight. We're going to do 3 very deep breathings, the deepest of your day. Inhale, exhale, lose the tension. Inhale, exhale, rest. Inhale, exhale. Pay attention to the sensations of your breath. It can happen on your belly, on your chest, or under your nose. This whole time you have been breathing. Right now, you are only being aware of that. If your attention goes away, gently pull it back to your breathing. Allow your mind to rest in your quiet body. Okay. If you have your eyes closed, you can open them up. You can change your position. Okay. Did any of you felt so relaxed that you almost fell asleep or actually fell asleep? That's normal reaction. Did it happen to you that your mind was so busy talking all the time that you couldn't pay attention to your breathing? Okay, that's natural also. Does any of you feel right now more calm and clear-minded than before the exercise? Okay, that is the taste of the exercise, all right? And the brain is an organ in our body made to think. To ask our brain to stop thinking is like asking our heart to stop beating. It is its job. But we can just let the thoughts pass and come back to where we want to focus. And this exercise is like working out at the gym. We relax, we contract, relax and contract. Every time our attention goes away, we pull it back gently to us. Every time we get distracted, we remember and focus again on our breath. Okay, just like a puppy. If we're training a puppy to stay with us, we're not going to pull it harshly because it won't want to come back to us. It's gently, okay? We treat ourselves with love. We treat our attention also very gently. How do you apply this during the day? Well, I highly recommend that you do this exercise 3 minutes, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, at least once in a day. You can do it in the morning, at night, right before bed, at noon, be curious to find out when it works better for you. For me, it works better in the morning because my mind is more calm. But for a lot of people work way better at night, they rest better, and some people have time before lunch and they do it at noon, okay? But there is also a very brief tool, parar. Pause, attend, remember, apply, and return. I'm going to say this in Spanish because that's the way we're going to use it every day, right? Pause, para. See how are you feeling, like before a class, like before you enter a classroom. Oh, I'm a little edgy, I'm a little agitated, nervous, or sleepy. Stop. Attend. How am I feeling? Remember, what is the instruction? Attention to your breathing. Apply. I breathe. If you have time, you can take 3 breaths. If you don't, just 1 is enough. Return to yourself. We are usually scattered between future and past. By our breath, we return ourselves to the present. And return, regresa, return to your activities. Para, atiende, recuerda, aplica, regresa, parar. Stop, see how you're feeling. Take a breath, a very intentional breath, not just like, yes, I'm ready. A very intentional breath, and go back to what you were doing. And if you want to deepen your practice, I can also suggest the Atentamente app. It's for free. It's absolutely free. You can find it in your operating system store. It has meditations as short as this one that I just gave you, 3 minutes, but it has also even 20-minute meditations. And we also have some tools for different objectives like gratitude, search of purpose, okay? I think you can find this very useful if you are curious, if you felt, if you liked the practice. Okay, now in one word or a couple of words, I would like you to share with me, what do you take from this talk, from this very brief talk, but I hope you got something useful out of it. If you can just raise your hand and say it very loud so we can all hear you, I will greatly appreciate it. What do you take from this? Relax. Control my stress. Calm down. Nice. Breathe more or less. Slower. Parar, right? Self-control, yes. Patience. Stress, predators are in your mind. Identify our emotions, absolutely. Self-care, super important. Time for yourself. Be present. It's a beautiful thing, being present. Peace. Awesome. Thank you. Thank you so much. And different things work differently for each of us. We are humans, but we are unique. So be curious about what can help you better. Thank you very much. We have, sorry, 1 second. We have this quote in the association that is, I change, we change together, everything changes. It's amazing. When we have a different relationship with the outside, it looks like the whole world changes. Thank you so much. Have a great rest of your day. Enjoy. And I hope you learn a lot so you can bring new stuff for the kids who always appreciate improvements in the classroom. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Rosalinda Valles. That was a great presentation. I think a lot of us really needed it. Now, the following duo will provide us with a wide scope on several topics that you will be working on today. Please welcome Paul Mock Islas and Juan Antonio González Torres with the presentation Effective English Teaching, Competency-Based Methods and Innovative Strategies.
Hello, welcome, and thank you all for being here. I know it's been a couple of hours already, so I know we will try to be very quick, very motivating. We'll try to do it as fun as we can during this presentation. First of all, I want to thank Paola and Emmanuel for the invitation for us to be here. I'm really excited because I wanted to tell you that as part of what we do in Camino 21 and Tálisis is that we travel all around the country and in different countries in Latin America. What you're going to be hearing here is the result of the work we've done in the field, in the classrooms, with several thousand educators in Mexico, Peru, Argentina, Chile, and of course, all around here in Mexico. And let me tell you, this is something extraordinary, what is happening here. And I mean it in the best way possible, because it is not that ordinary or that normal that different governments take the time and the resources to really be here with you guys as English teachers. So I want to congratulate Paola and the government of Coahuila, because this is something that hopefully will help all of us to become and to be better educators and to help our students really achieve all their needs. So Camino 21 is an edtech company that I founded over 4 years ago when we were teaching in Harvard and the MIT. And we were recently acquired by Tálisis. I just make this small and brief commercial because you're gonna see like a lot of different brands around here. Tony is our resident expert in English. He's the academic director of Harman Hall. You've heard of Harman Hall probably, right? Yeah. So this presentation was originally conceived for other educators, not only focused on English, but Tony really helped us narrow it down or really ground it into the English learning space. So yeah, with that, let's start. And let's see if this works. Hopefully this will work and we'll be able to change. Yeah. Okay, so to start, I just wanted to ask you a very brief question. So if you have your cell phones, unlike Rosalinda, who gave us an amazing presentation about how to be very attentive, I will ask you to use a little bit more of the technology. So if you can scan this QR code that is just behind me, I just want to have a brief feel about how we're feeling using AI in our classrooms. Hopefully we'll have signal on. Yes, no, it works. It works. It works? Awesome. Awesome. So let's just give 1 second. Because everyone is answering with their phones. And can we switch to the other screen? Awesome. And can we present up there in la esquina superior derecha with the present button? Yeah. So So just to have a quick feeling about how would we interact with generative AI in our classrooms. So around here, I'm seeing that we have around 33 answers already, and there's like 400 of us. So I'm gonna wait a few minutes for all of you to start answering. But it's interesting, right? So what we're seeing is that the way that we're using generative AI as a group right now, there's some people who use it very confidently in their classrooms. There's a lot of people on the other side of the spectrum, and an increasing number of people are saying that they do not use generative AI right now. And there's some of us right there in the middle, some of us who do think that in very specific occasions it's okay to use AI. And for some of us, only if it's not being assessed. If it's not in evaluation, then it's okay to use it. This is not something that, there's no wrong or right answer. I just wanted to have an understanding of where we are as a group here. And if we can switch back. And why am I doing this in an English presentation, right? So the title of the presentation that I was asked to give here is Effective English Teaching Using Competency-Based Methods and Innovative Strategies. And for me, it is impossible to think about innovative strategies when teaching and not consider the huge elephant in the room that is the eruption that generative artificial intelligence has caused in all of our classrooms and in all of our lives, and that will continue doing so. So what we're going to be doing throughout this presentation is that we are going to be using some active learning that Rosalinda already helped us sort of enhance in this place right now. I'm also going to be doing some transparent teaching. That is to say that I'm going to be telling you what I'm doing and why I'm doing what I'm doing. The idea is also for you to be able to experience some of this part of the presentation. And our main objective is to understand the importance and relevance of competency-based education and its transcendence in the AI era. So, and how to actually use it and to apply it in our classrooms, in our English classrooms. I don't know what you're hiding down there, but you can come up here and eventually we're gonna be sharing the stage in some places. Okay, so another question for you guys. Just for all of us to be sort of knowing where we are, how do we feel about competency-based education, competency-based learning, the mastery of education? There's a lot of concepts around here. It is the same QR code. So if back there, you can help me to, okay, to put on the other screen. And let's see. And can you switch that? You have to go to the next one. Awesome. Gracias. So now you can refresh the screen and you'll have the second answer. And so what words come to mind when you think about competency-based education? Again, no wrong or right answer. You can say absolutely nothing. I have no idea. I never heard of this concept. Or you can be experts here. So let's give 1 second. Skills, challenge, functions. Something that you notice? No idea. No idea. That's good. And that's perfect. That's why we're here, right? We're learning about these new concepts. There's a lot of words coming in, as you can see. Skills is huge. It's in the center. There's something obviously related between competencies and the development of skills. Challenge. It can be a real challenge to be thinking about these new methodologies, new approach to teaching that normally really changes the way that we normally teach. I also see abilities, innovation, learn, projects, creativity, motivation, personalized learning, abilities, competencies, professional, outdated, interesting, challenge, a huge challenge, fun, and a happy face. I love the happy face. I don't know how you did it over there, but that's great. Sin internet, yeah, that also happens, but that's fine. We can also, we'll learn some ways to do it here. And we're going to be sending this presentation. So if you want to take notes or if you feel better just paying attention over here, and I will introduce all the results because I think it's also interesting to see how we felt about this. So what we're going to be doing today, I did not change the title. So this should say schedule instead of agenda de la sesión. But yes, so what we're going to be doing here is we're going to be covering 4 different topics. The first one is we're going to be thinking about why we should be teaching using competency-based education. Then we're going to go into some definitions and to understanding what competency-based education is. And then we're going to be thinking about generative AI as a 21st century competency. This is not something that normally happens. When we listen about generative AI, we normally conceive it as a tool, but our proposal, our approach is that we can actually be learned and used as a competency, as English was used during the 90s or early 2000s when it was perceived as a new 21st century competency, and something that will, as our secretary Emmanuel was saying, help us be better prepared. And not only there, but Vanessa Dulce was also telling us how she will feel better equipped to face the future using and learning education. And then hopefully we're going to have some time for questions, comments, and your reflections, which I think would be transcendental and useful. So one of the biggest challenges that we have is that we're doing something wrong in Latin America, because 3 out of every 4 employers think that people that are finishing higher education, not only basic education, but finishing higher education, lack the basic and professional and personal competencies needed to perform well in the job force. That is huge. 75% of companies out there say that in Latin America, the whole region, this is not something that happens only here in Saltillo or in Coahuila or Mexico for that matter, but in the whole region, we're doing something wrong. And we have to face the way that we're doing. And another huge I don't know, just a statement that really moves me to be thinking about how to do this in a different way is that 85% of future jobs don't yet exist. I just want you to sit with it for a minute. Think about it. 85% of the jobs from the future do not yet exist. So how do we prepare our students? How do we prepare our youth for a world that has been changing and will continue changing in such a fast pace that 85% of everything that is out there in the future has not yet been invented? And you can think about some new roles, some, I mean, AI related, for example, this idea of having prompt engineers sounds like something that you've probably heard of, but I'm also thinking about influencers, right? There's people whose job now is to be creating content for social media, and they might be earning more money than I am, and yeah, by far, right? So I mean, like, it's different jobs that are now being created, and that we have to really be able to help our students understand and be prepared for what is to come. And the answer to do that is by teaching using competencies and centering in what is not only the disciplinary content that our students should learn, but about the skills and abilities that they can acquire for a fast changing world. You've probably heard about Yuval Noah Harari, who's an Israeli historian. And he wrote a book recently that was called Sapiens, and it was very famous about a few years ago. Excellent Christmas presents now that you're thinking about what to give to your families and friends in the incoming months. It's a great book. But what he was saying is that we really have to focus on learning these new skills and abilities, because everything will change so fast that we need to really focus on the competencies that we want to develop on our students. Think about it. When a new student comes into higher education, if he or she, they're studying, say, biology, for example, the way that they're learning and what they're learning when they start their degree is going to be completely different to 4 years after. So we really need to provide them with the tools to learn how to learn how to work as a group, to have leadership, to have resilience, to have all creativity, critical thinking, all these 21st century skills and competencies that will really equip them to face this new world. So what is competency-based education? And competency-based education is not that easily defined, because there are a lot of different approaches to it. There's a lot of different perspectives, and there's not one general definition that everyone uses. You might have heard certain ideas. So here are some common elements that we think and we use when we think about competency-based education. The first one it's something that we do in Harmon Hall, but it is easier for us because we're a non-scholarized or non-traditional system, right? So the first way to perceive competency-based education is to move from two different variables that normally work in the education process, time and learning objectives, right? Or the achievement of certain competencies. So the first way to conceive it is moving away from tracking time to start tracking competencies. I will go into depth in a few moments about this. The second element, or the second way to do it, is something that might be more relevant to all of you here, because we are part of an education system with clear structures, and that is changing the way that we're emphasizing only disciplinary knowledge and content to move to start mapping competencies as a learning journey, and to know how to really achieve those certain competencies instead of only achieving the content behind everything that we're teaching. And the other thing is that we want to start using more formative assessment and ongoing to support to really help us get our students faster to developing those certain competencies. In our context, that is English, right? And I was really excited to listen to what Emmanuel was doing here, to say that they were assessing the different students to really place them in the different levels that they are. That is a huge innovation. That is something that doesn't normally happen in different places, and that will really help us to be focusing on the English learning part of what we're doing here. So the first one, from this perception of moving from tracking time to tracking competencies, means, and in a normally, what we do in education is that we're fixing the learning objective. That is to say, in an academic year, throughout the year, our students will have to learn certain things. And at the end of the year, they will have if we use a letter grade, an A, a B, or a C. If we use numbers, they will have a 10. If they really perform well, a 2, a 3, a 6, a 7, an 8, whatever calificación, grade. Gracias. Score that they're doing. It's great to be with teachers here in English, because I'm always learning, and do help me and correct me if I'm doing something wrong. But so normally what we do is, by the end of the year, in a very fixed amount of time throughout a semester, then we vary the learning outcomes. We vary their scores and their grade. In a competency-based education system, what we do is that we fix the learning objectives and the outcomes. We want to see that they have demonstrated certain capacities, and that's what we're fixing. And what we're moving is time. It doesn't really matter how much time they take in achieving a certain competence. And that's a huge difference from what we normally do. We want them to be able to have a certain minimum that they want to acquire, no maximums. We want them to be able to develop as much as they can any competency. But what we're doing, and the routes here at the end, mean the different learning tracks that they can have to really achieve those competencies, right? So there's a huge difference between one and the other. The second one, Tony.
Yes, here you have a clear example of competencies as a map. This is what we have at Harmon Hall, by the way. So we have 24 courses, and they're divided in 6 levels. You can see we're also aligned to the Common European Framework, which it was mentioned before. So we go from A1, which is the foundation of the language, and we go all the way to a professional level. So as you can see there on the side, we have the different competencies or skills the students achieve depending on the student's needs. Not everybody needs the same. I'll give you an example. Let's think of someone that speaks English already, and this person's looking to improve their English, his or her English, to make presentations at work in a professional environment at a different level. Perhaps having conversations in a very fluent way, using the language with confidence and with a wide variety of vocabulary. That person would have to take probably only the 4 last courses at Harmon Hall, because that's exactly the competencies and the skills that that person will acquire. Meanwhile, we can look at foundation, which is the first level of the Common European Framework, and for Harmon Hall, the first 8 courses. So it's someone that actually has no English, but at the end of this level, whatever time it takes for the student, it might take I don't know, a year, it might take 2 months. It depends a lot also on the student and on the teacher and teacher techniques and so many other things that we're going to talk about in a few minutes. But in this case, what we're looking for in this level is for someone to actually gain the ability to communicate in a simple way, to ask certain questions and to be able to understand just simple answers. We're not looking for something really complex. It's just perhaps when you go out and travel for your first time to United States somewhere and you want to ask directions and how to get to your hotel room or to go to a restaurant. This is something that a student can achieve at the first level at Harmon Hall. So the question here, because this is a very typical question for students, how long do I need to learn English? What do we typically answer? It's a really complex to answer because it can take for months, it can take a year, it depends on what you need. It depends on the competencies and the skills that you need. So you don't need to take 24 courses at Harmon Hall to understand, to speak proper English. It depends on the competencies and the abilities and skills that you need for your personal growth, life, professional life, or personal matters. So this is something that we look for at Harmon Hall.
Thank you, Tony. And please do notice what is not here in this image. What is not here in this image is vocabulary. What is not here in this image is grammar. What is not is normally how we approach the way that we teach English. What we're looking at here is a competency map. And what we want to develop is throughout these different processes, we want the student to be able to go from A1 to B1 all the way to C1 and to be really proficient in English, right? So that is part of what we want and what I understand the government here in Coahuila is trying to achieve, to move away from this more disciplinary kind of knowledge into creating and enhancing competencies that will prepare our students for what is to come. So now I want to switch into this more part of the innovative strategies, and we created a framework to understand what generative AI mean in education and how we can achieve it and use it in our classrooms. So the way that we're thinking about it, and there's certain data that I wanted to share with you, is this is the result of a poll that was made about a year ago, and it was just recently published this summer, and that it spoke about the use of AI about a year ago in our classrooms. So do remember that generative AI, ChatGPT, and all these new LLMs are really new. These did not exist 3 years ago. So this is something that is quite relevant, quite new already. But by spring last year, there was around a half of our students, or at least the students in the US, were already using ChatGPT as a regular tool in the day-to-day. Meanwhile, our faculty, our teachers, only about a fourth of them, 22% of them were using it. So we're already lagging by about half the pace of the adoption of this technology than our students were doing. And I'm sure when we see the data for this new kind of polling that will come in the next few months, this will be closer to 100% of them. This is already happening. This is a reality. This is not something that will happen in the future, but this is the present of our classroom. Students are already using this technology. Even though in basic education, this is important to say, there's supposed to be certain age guardrails for them not to be using. In theory, nobody below the age of 13 should be using ChatGPT because that's part of what OpenAI has stated. But we know some of them might be doing, and for all of you who are in middle school or high school, this is more true even so. So the other thing is that when we're thinking about understanding what generative artificial intelligence is, there's normally in education 3 different perspectives that we cover. One is to be thinking about how do we understand and relate to artificial intelligence to really enhance human intelligence. How can we use it as a tool to move beyond of what are our normal capabilities. And I'm going to be speaking a bit more because that is what we're going to be covering in this session. There's also a lot of new artificial intelligence tool in education. You've probably used Duolingo. Is anyone familiar with Duolingo? Have anyone used it? Probably
Please
most of us.
don't.
Yeah, right. It's always interesting to see that small owl being very anxious about our not completing the whatever thing we have to do with Duolingo. Well, Duolingo is one of those tools that has been using artificial intelligence for the past however many years since it started, right? And it's just one tool that we can normally use that does not mean using only generative AI, but other kinds of technology. And the third one is understanding artificial intelligence, or what we call AI literacy. And it is very important also because all of us who are educators must understand what this technology is in order to actually use it and use it properly in our classrooms. So what we're going to be doing in this conference is actually covering the number 1 and the number 3. And I know there's also a workshop later on that is also going to be covering some of other aspects as well. So this man here is Daniel Burrows. Daniel Burrows is a futurologist. He's very well known, and he when speaking about artificial intelligence, he stated this very, I would say, complex. Yeah, what sounds like something that should be in tension with each other, two different concepts. He says that artificial intelligence and generative AI will help us, and we are going to automate. Thanks to it, we're going to automate and humanize education for the first time in history. That because of the use of artificial intelligence and generative artificial intelligence, we're going to be able to start automating and humanizing education for the first time in history. And this should be controversial. This should be a strange statement, right? How do we think about automating and humanizing education for the first time in history using something that seems so foreign or so robotic? So I would like all of you to take 2 minutes, or first a minute, to think about this statement and what it means for you. How do we think about artificial intelligence being able to automate and humanize education? So take a minute to think about it. We will then share it, so worry not. So I want you to turn with someone who's close to you, and to tell you what do you think. What do you think happens? And so this is an activity that is called Think Per Share. You've probably heard about it. It's what is called a thinking routine. So just turn with someone who's next to you and tell them, why do you think, or do you think that this statement is true? What does Daniel Burrows mean when he says that artificial intelligence is going to help us automate and humanize education for the first time? So go ahead. You have a couple of minutes, 2 or 3 minutes. So as we do in English, if you can hear me, clap once. If you can hear me, clap twice. If you can hear me, clap 3 times. If you can hear me, clap 4 times. Awesome. It always works. I love these kind of methods. It works with kids, it works with adults as well. So, guys, so I was just listening to some conversations around here, and I heard 2 very different statements around here. One with Professor Sinai and Professor Cynthia that were thinking. Professor Sinai says that he does not believe that artificial intelligence will be able to humanize education. And I kind of agree with you. It sounds very difficult to be able to bring this kind of new technology into something that feels inherently humane as the educational process normally is. And Cynthia was also telling us that she thinks that it might be possible, because at least artificial intelligence can help us as educators to really start automating certain parts of our job that are very bureaucratic. You have to send a ton of emails. You have to send a ton of reports. You have to be able to contact all your students, all their parents. And all of those kind of work is something that is very time consuming. And sometimes we don't have the ability or the time to be able to do the lesson planning, to be able to grade our assessments and evaluations, and to be able to actually think how to improve the learning processes. And that is why, in a way, we're thinking about this statement. So Chris Didi, who's the director of the artificial intelligence unit in Harvard, and he was my professor over there. I'm taking this and I'm just going to read it plainly as it is here. And it says, intelligence augmentation, this is his whole proposition, is to move away from thinking about artificial intelligence to thinking about augmented intelligence. That's the way we should be thinking about AI. He says that intelligence augmentation is when AI and humans engage in a complementary partnership in which human and AI teams' overall performance is greater than their individual capacity. As artificial intelligence takes over a greater percentage of the reckoning tasks, the need for workers to engage in a complementary relationship with machines will become more important. And this is a mouthful. As my fellow Americans say, they say there's a lot to unpack here, right? So what do we mean what does Chris Didi means when he says this about augmented intelligence, about pairing the AI, the machines with a part of intelligence, right? So he thinks about this in 2 very different ways. So the way that we're thinking or engaging with this technology is that artificial intelligence is very good computing data. It is very good calculating certain probabilities. It is very good recognizing certain patterns, especially when thinking about large number or large quantities of information. Meanwhile, us humans, we're really good in developing, or we should be really good at thinking about judgment skills and the way that we're using in the information that we receive to sort of move through the different biases that they could have, to consider the ethical results of any actions that we take, and to be able to apply it in very unique situations. I think that part of what makes very interesting our jobs as teachers is that we're constantly and in real life taking decisions, and our decisions impact our students. That's something, and we have to live with the results of those actions, right? If we fail one of our students, that's going to be on us. That's going to be and have a huge impact on our students. We help them move to become more proficient in English. That's also part of what we're going to have to live with, and hopefully that's going to help us continue being motivated to teach. But that is something that the AI cannot do. So what Isaias was saying, Sinai. So what Sinai was saying, and he was right, is that right now the AI is really good doing the things that are down here. This is a revised version of the Bloom's taxonomy, which I'm sure all of you are familiar with. But right now, the AI is really good in remembering, in understanding, in applying certain ideas. But what it is not capable of today doing, because it is moving quite fast. But what it cannot do is to really achieve these higher level competencies or higher cognitively difficult competencies to achieve that are creating, evaluating, analyzing. That is what really creates or makes us more human. So what Chris Eady, what Daniel Burrows, what I think about education and using the AI in these kind of models is that we can help, we can use these kind of tools to help us with the things that are down here to really start focusing on what makes us more human. And that is what Daniel Burrows is saying, that it can help us automate and humanize education for the first time in history. Teaching grammar or teaching math at a very basic level, arithmetic, is something that the AI is really good doing. You can go into Khan Academy and they already have certain tools that will help us to move faster our students to be doing the kind of assessment that will place them and help them in meeting them where they are in their learning process. But that is something that is very time consuming and that is very difficult to do. One of the best things about AI is that it will help us personalize learning. So all of this to say that if we consider that artificial intelligence can be viewed as a competency, then it means that we can actually break it in different parts of what any competency is made of, which is the knowledge, different knowledge, skills, and attitudes. And if we consider artificial intelligence to be seen as a skill, as a competency that can be developed, then it also means that it can be developed through practice. We can actually learn how to use it and how to acquire it and how to integrate it into our everyday. So this is the framework. And I'm not going to go through the whole model, but if Coahuila invites us to a different presentation, we can go deeper into what we're going to be doing. And we're going to be covering some of these areas later on our workshop. But this is the idea of the kind of knowledge, attitude, and skills that using the AI can be looked at. So the first stuff is certain knowledge that we must understand when thinking about artificial intelligence and generative artificial intelligence as a competency and understanding certain basic concepts, right? So the first thing is to understand that artificial intelligence as a field was created in computer science to kind of mimic the way that we humans think. That was artificial intelligence. From then on, generative artificial intelligence was created as a subfield of AI that wanted to be able to sort of create certain algorithms. And I know that you're an expert, Tariq, in STEM. So if I'm saying something wrong, do please jump in. But it wanted to be able to predict the next item in a sort of, understanding certain topics and certain systems and certain ideas, and to be able to process them and to spit out a certain result based on what was coming before. And an LLM, a large language model, is a very particular type of generative AI that uses natural language, this what we're doing right now, the way that we speak, language as a whole, was integrated into the model. And this is a huge jump that really helped us democratize the use of these AI tools. Before this, we needed to know how to program, how to code, to be able to engage with this kind of with tools. But today, we can use language, which is the system that it understands, the algorithm understands language to be able to do it. But because it is understanding language, it means that we can also be focusing on certain key and very basic competencies that will be needed in order to engage with the Gen AI in a proper way. So there's different models, and it is also important for us to be understanding the different models that we use in a day-to-day. Do you know what the first logo is? ChatGPT, right? And do you know the company, the parent company of ChatGPT? OpenAI. Thank you. The second one, Gemini, it's from Google. And the third one, and I just used it out there, that is Claude from Anthropic. There's other ones. There's Perplexity. There's other ones like, I don't know, Lambda, and there's other models out there. But the reason I wanted to show you these three is that each model is programmed in a very specific way and they behave differently. And I know I might be anthropomizing the AI, but the thing is that if you type something into ChatGPT, it will produce something that is very structured and very neutral because it was programmed to do it that way. If you ask the same question to Gemini, Gemini will probably send you a ton of different links because it was made by Google. So it wants you to interact with the rest of the internet. And Claude is a very human kind of voice that is there. So if you want to write a speech, it's probably better to be using something closer to Claude than actually be using ChatGPT. Because, and that's what I wanted to share with you all, is that different models behave differently and they are better for certain tasks than others. So when we're thinking about how to use generative AI, we have to be keeping in mind these kind of different models to be using them in a day-to-day. Also interesting to know is that even the models behave different in different times. We don't understand why yet, but ChatGPT is going to start giving us worse answers in the incoming months because we're closer to the holidays. So it learned that when we start getting closer to December and to Christmas, it is when we are kind of like lacking our jobs and we're thinking about vacations and going with our family. So the chatbot behaves differently closer to Christmas than in summer. Weird things that happen. But yeah, so another thing that we have to understand, and this is something that I find very exciting as teachers, as educators, is that we can't change the fact that we need disciplinary expertise. If you know something, if you're experts in each of your fields, and you ask ChatGPT something that you already know and that you're an expert on, the answers that they provide, they're not really good. It is a great first way to approach something that you do not know, and then it will give you an okay answer to start searching. It's closer to what you would get like in using Google or using whatever thing we used before, Spark Notes, if you were a student in the 2000s. But if you're an expert in the field, the reality is that it is not that good. So in your case, as English teachers, it does not knowing English is a prerequisite that you must understand to use it in a better way, because it does not substitute the fact that if you do not speak English proficiently, it will not help you achieve it there. The other thing is to be considering certain ethical frameworks behind this idea. And here I have a video that I did not charge before I loaded, before I came here. So we might not be able to do it. But no, right? Yes, no, maybe. Probablemente sí, ¿no? Allá en el audio, ¿habrá manera de ver si este video corre? Sí se puede. Si no se puede, no se puede ni modo. A ver. Chan, chan. And that is why artificial intelligence will not substitute us. So what you did not see was my digital twin. And I wanted to show you that my digital twin, because it's quite impressive to see something that is very easily obtained and that can speak and sound and move as I am. And this is not that exciting if I'm telling you this. And they say in showbiz, show don't tell, and I'm not showing you this. But I will send it along so you can see that kind of expertise that we have. And it is appalling, and it is very amazing to see the kind of technology and where we're at right now, because it has real life consequences to be having a digital twin that sounds like you, has your same mannerisms, can speak and has the same kind of influences that you do. And this is something that is already happening. And I don't know if you remember when we were younger and we saw Mission Impossible or James Bond, that you had something that completely changed your mind and it looked and sounded like the other person, but it was not it. Well, that is happening today. Senator Cardin is part of the Security Council in the Senate in the US, and he received a call a few weeks ago in which he jumped in the Zoom. He had an email, and he was told by the former Secretary of Defense of Ukraine, who are at war with Russia, that he wanted to have a conversation with him. So he jumped into the call, and on the other side, what he saw is somebody that sounded like Mr. Kuleba, who's the Minister of Defense, that spoke like him, that sounded like him, that had the same mannerism, that had the same accent, but that was asking very weird questions and certain questions that he should already know. So he was suspicious about it. He logged out of the call and he called the security forces in the US and the intelligence services to be able to acknowledge. And what happened, it actually wasn't the Minister of Defense. It was a digital twin of him. So even today, we should be considering having like a safe word, a safe password that each of us should only tell our dearest and closest friends and family, because this is something that might happen. You might get a call by somebody who sounds exactly like your loved ones or like your boss, and they might not be it. So if you're like, it is not a joke that right now this is something that is happening today, and that we should be able to actually have this kind of safeguards in place to interact with each other, because this is not that far from happening in a day-to-day kind of situations. The other way that we were using in a non-ethical way ChatGPT and the way that we were conceiving digital twins is what prompted the strike, the writer strikes and the actor strikes in Hollywood last year. I don't know if you remember it, but even consider the possibilities of having a digital twin that sounds like and looks like Brad Pitt without actually having to pay Brad Pitt, right? So the consequences were huge about using this kind of technology, and it's something that we must consider in our day-to-day when thinking about AI. Another skill, and so we're covering kind of like the knowledge. Again, I'm not going to go through the whole model, but one of the skills that I think is very useful when people are considering how to master the use of generative AI as a competency is English. And it's something that you are all helping our students achieve, because these languages were trained in English and they speak better English than Spanish and other languages. So being able to understand and to use proficiently English will help us actually use the generative AI tools in a way better way. And there are certain skills that are inherent to the use of AI. And I'm normally prompting, and then we do have a whole workshop in prompting, not today, but again, if you're interested in these kind of topics, more than happy to come back to Saltillo or to any of your cities to continue having this conversation. But I wanted to give you certain ideas that I think are always useful when thinking about generative AI. As this possibility to consider it as an augmented intelligence or as a co-intelligence, like Ethan Mollick, who's a colleague from UPenn. He teaches in the Wharton School of Business there in the US. And he was thinking about 4 main ideas whenever thinking about AI in our lives. One of them is to always invite artificial, or 4 rules when thinking about AI. The first one is to always invite artificial intelligence to the table. Do keep in mind that it is here, that it will continue being here, and it has transformed our lives. So in any situation that we have, always considering having the AI conversation around any topic, especially if you're in government, it could be interesting to be considering these conversations with them. The second rule is to always be the human in the loop. We always have to be able to assess and to see that the results or whatever is being what we're being told by the AI actually makes sense. We're still in a moment when there's someone who has to be an expert to verify that the information being provided by the AI makes sense. So be the human on the loop. The third one is to treat artificial intelligence like a person, but to tell them what kind of person it is. And this also has to do with the prompting. So AI can take any kind of position. You can ask the AI to explain something as if you were a 2-year-old, or to explain it as if you were a doctorate student at Harvard, right? Or to explain it as if it was a scientist or as if it was a teacher. It's different the way that it will approach it. And it is okay to be treating it as a person, not only saying thank you and please, but also in a way that the more that you explain things to it, the better understanding it will have and the better outcome it will be. It will provide you, right? The fourth rule is to assume that this today is the worst AI that you will ever use. Right now, we're using the worst kind of models and the results, which are amazing, and we did not see because I was not able to show you the video. But what we're seeing today is the worst AI that we're ever gonna encounter. We are not that far away, the scientific community believes, into achieving what is called general AI, which is that huge jump that we will have when AI will actually be able to continue improving itself by itself and to be able to have more intelligence than humankind. But today, and it will only continue to improve what we're seeing and using of AI. So finally, I'm gonna go into some competencies or some skills that are needed in order to really be using AI at its fullest potential. And these skills are something that you guys are providing to your students in a day-to-day. To be able to engage with ChatGPT and with the artificial intelligence technology properly, we have to be able to communicate assertively, right? To have good oral and written communication skills, because the main way that these things communicate with language, we must be able to write and think clearly. So, in terms of what that means for an English teacher.
Yes, functional communication. So this is where we come in as teachers. And are you familiar with BTP, Best Teaching Practices? Have you heard of them? Raise your hand if you've heard of them before, please. Just a few hands. Okay. So best teaching practices is what we take into the classroom, and this is how we planned. Cueing. Are you familiar with cueing? Modeling, eliciting. All right, all of those. We're gonna actually put that into practice in the workshop in a little bit. But here's what we actually do as teachers. Functional communication. What's the main objective? To develop skills for our students to communicate among themselves. And we're also going to talk about teacher-centered class and student-centered class, because there are two complete different approaches. And this is an example, again, of what we do at Harmon Hall. And this is what we can take care of as teachers. Number one, giving clear instructions. Imagine for our students when they don't speak the language and we give them instructions in English and we're not clear enough. And students get confused, and then this does not help for them to feel confident and to actually produce during a class. We have to give them clear instructions, even the time they will spend during the activity. So modeling and cueing will come along. And by modeling, I mean giving them some tools, showing them or giving them something they can use to produce or to perform that activity you're asking them to do. For example, we can give them a language pattern. We can tell them, okay, this is what you're gonna do. This is what you're gonna use to perform this activity. That is actually modeling. And this is part of the best teaching practices. Then, who loves grammar? There's some hands actually that say, yay, you love grammar. This for students is just really difficult sometimes. And for us as teachers, I want you to understand the disconnection between teaching grammar in a communicative way and how we actually do it most of the time, which is just giving them the grammar, like verb to be, simple past, present continuous. Well, how do we make sure the students actually put it into practice in a communicative way? That's where we come in. That's where we actually have to make sure to use proper modeling, proper cueing, and to give them certain types of activities where they can actually practice what they learned that minute, that day. If I just finish teaching simple past, I want them to use it right then, because I want to listen. I want to see if they're accomplishing the learning objective or not. Then we have to give them a function. And by this, I mean, we want our students to understand what are the skills we want them to get, the skills that we want them to accomplish. They need to understand that, so they put it into practice when it's time to do so. And then one of my favorite ones, and actually I was talking to Paul about this last night, that I really, really like, is a wrap up of the class, where we actually have to do the checking comprehension. Or here's a tricky question. When do we do checking comprehension? At the beginning, at the end, when? At all times, right? We have to make sure students understand But the crucial part of the checking comprehension comes at the end of the class, because this is where we actually we're gonna make sure that we reach the learning objective, and the actually students did as well. As when they put into practice what we show them, and that's when we can go home thinking, okay, I did well today because my student actually was able to say, I went to the movies last night.
So as you can see, what you're doing today will help our students be better prepared and better equipped to start using AI as a competency, because you're teaching them these crucial skills that are oral and written communication. And those are the kind of things that we need in a world that is fast pacedly changing. The other one has to do with metacognition. Metacognition is this very fancy word that will give you a lot of points in Scrabble, but it is also what it means to be thinking about how we think, right? To be giving this second level kind of approach to knowledge. So we're thinking and we believe that it is part of the skills that you need to be using AI comprehensively, because yeah, because when we're interacting with an LLM, with a large language model like ChatGPT, all of those, we should always be aware of the kind of processes that we are considering ourselves. You always have to be asking yourself certain questions when interacting with a chatbot. So, for example, you always have to ask yourself, what tasks do I do better than the artificial intelligence, and vice versa? What questions should I ask to achieve the expected result? I don't know, has anyone read The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy? It's a book. It was also a movie. No one. One person. Okay, so sad. 2, 3, 4. Okay. Well, should we give some spoilers? I thought that this was like a 20-year-old movie, but well, the whole idea behind the book and the movie is that they're trying to find the answer for the universe and the answer for everything, right? And by the end, and there's a lot of things that happen in between, blah, 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 they go to this super intelligence. And the artificial, it's not an artificial intelligence, but it's like a sort of a deity that knows everything. And when they reach it, and they ask them, like, what is the result of everything? What is the answer to all the questions that we have in the universe? You know what the answer was? 42, correct. The answer for everything is 42. And that is a very strange answer. But the whole idea is that it is not about the answer, but about the questions that you ask. And having only knowing like what 42 means, it means nothing, right? It's just a answer. And that is normally what happens with AI. If we do not ask the correct questions, we'll only have like an answer like 42. So whenever anyone asks you what is the result of, and the answer for the universe is, it is 42. But that is not interesting. The interesting things are the questions that we ask, right? So another question that we should always be asking is, why don't I achieve the expected results using the AI? How can I ask it differently? What should I do differently in order to achieve it? What can I learn from this answer to improve my own work? It is a great like thinking partner to have a chatbot, because they're always there present. So to start a conversation, to be more creative, it is a great tool to be able to use this kind of technology. And if you use it with your students, I am a professor in ITAM, in el Instituto Tecnológico Autónomo de México, there in Mexico City. I teach higher education. So I teach education policy and another course that is called social innovation. Doesn't really matter. But what I do with my students is so for my course, it's mandatory for them to be using AI, because I want them to understand how to use AI. But I also want to know how they're using AI and how they're thinking and using it as a thinking partner. So any kind of chatbot has this amazing, amazing button up here in the top right, that if you push it, it will help you to give, or it will send you a link with the whole conversation that we have with a specific chatbot. And that is something that's amazing, because normally when we're assessing, when we're evaluating someone, and when we ask, say, for example, for an essay for our students, we can only see the end result. We'll see the essay outlaid and what the end result is. But with these kind of tools and technology, we can see how they reached that process. When they're using ChatGPT, we can see the kind of questions that we're asking. We can see what their thinking was behind the way that they achieve a certain result. And that is something that was impossible for. Before, we couldn't see or we couldn't think, we couldn't really understand what was happening in their mind and their brain. That was something that was hidden from us. And this way, we're making it explicit. So for me, it's been great because I can understand what they're thinking wrong, what their interests are, and how they achieve a certain result. My class is a project-based learning classroom, and the final projects are really useful. But what I love is not the final and the end result, but the whole process that took them there. So another skill that is very relevant to all of us here in this classroom is having critical thinking and to be able to enforce and enhance creative thinking. So what we do in Harmon Hall.
Yes. Nowadays, it's really difficult actually to help students to develop critical and creative skills. Do you agree? How many times we give an instruction and they're just like gone, right? Or you explain something and they just ask you exactly the same thing that you just explained. And then how do you go by? What do you say? I just said it. No, I'm kidding. Of course not. That's where actually we come in again as teachers. We have to use the right methodology. We have to think on the right method to go about it, to develop those critical and creative skills. This is something that we actually also do at Harmon Hall. And we have our methodology. And what we look for is for students to interact with each other at all times, most of the time. As I said before, we're going to talk about student-centered class, which is a different approach from a traditional approach. But we promote this for our students to actually think during classes, using what we just taught them, using the conversation strategies or the grammar rules that we just gave them, and we want them to think and how to put them into practice. The classes are personalized, and I don't mean like I sit down with one student one-on-one. I mean the teacher actually knows the student needs. Everybody has different needs. Not all students have the same needs. So it personalizes by understanding what Juanito needs, what Laura needs, and also, and this is really important, the way they learned, the different types of learning. Not everybody learns the same way. Do you know how you learn? Yes. If you don't, it's a really good question because we all need to know the way that we learn. How do we get information easier? How do we feel comfortable learning? And the teacher as well promotes all the time active learning and a really difficult skill nowadays, which is autonomous learning. In our country, it's really, really difficult to create that skill in our students. They always need the teacher. They always need someone to be right there instead of just going at it, by themselves. So our methodology helps with that. We give them information constantly that they saw in the first courses of Harmon Hall, and then at the end or in the middle. So we recycle information that is so that is always fresh right here, so they can just go get it and use it. And really important, technology. We need to use materials, technological materials. We actually have an alliance with Cambridge University Press. They're personalized all of our materials. And we also have Cambridge one. And then this platform is a great opportunity for our students to use critical thinking skills, creative skills, because they do it by themselves when they're not in the classroom.
And another way that and all of this is, again, very important to be thinking about how to use AI, because if we're not able to develop critical thinking, we were not going to be able to understand when the chatbot is hallucinating or whatever it is suggesting, it is right or wrong, right? So it is important for us to be able to discern these kind of ideas and to continue thinking creatively about the way that we're engaging with this kind of technology and tools. So I just wanted to give you an example of what happened to us over there at Harvard. We were having a class that was about critical thinking, and we were discussing a particular case. One of those cases that are very hard to understand because it had to do with diversity and inclusion in an educational process, and we were very like sort of stagnated in a conversation. We were just coming and going like the whole group over there, and we were just falling into the same like very common ideas, and basically the conversation was stalled. So what happened is that our professor finished the class, and the next time that we reached, he gave us a print letter about with a prompt that he had given ChatGPT, and the same prompt that he gave us. And the answer that he gave us was exactly the same as the conversations that we were having. And it was so hurtful to our ego to see that the conversations that we were having were the same result as whatever you would be able to type into ChatGPT, that it elicits something in our brain and it forced us to be thinking way ahead of what the conversation was happening. And that's when we started having a way more meaningful conversation around the whole topic that we're discussing. And then he wrote a particular article about this thing that happened to us, and that's a QR code. If you scan it, you'll be able to read the whole conversation there in Wired about how he was using it and how it can be used to actually promote and engage creative thinking. So the last one, and we will not go into it because we have to be wrapping up. So, but it has to do with attitudes. And there's certain attitudes that are important that you will have in order to start engaging with this technology properly. And one of it has to do with growth mindset. And growth mindset, I don't know if you've heard about the concept. It was developed by Carol Dweck, a psychologist in Stanford. And what she came up with is this idea that we should approach, when we do not know something, instead of closing down, we should be approaching it with an open mind and to understand that failing is okay. That change is important, that the way that we are all engaging today here in this conference and in the next workshops that we're going to be having, it will face us with different ways of teaching than what we have traditionally been doing. We've been always teaching possibly in the same way for many years, and it is uncomfortable to change. But it is okay to change. It is important for all of us to be able to be engaging in these kind of processes and to move forward, because growth mindset as an attitude is also needed to be able to engage with this technology. When I started using ChatGPT, I had no idea how to do it. And like my abuelito would say, like, it's okay, como que pusha los botones y ahí le picas para ver qué pasa. And then you will be like just like engaging with the technology, because the way that you use it, it is out of curiosity and a growth mindset, like the one that you probably all have because you're here today, and that shows that you're willing to continue learning and to continue improving and continue, being exposed to new ideas so you can take them back to your students and for all of us to be able to perform better. So yeah, so final question, and allá atrás en la cabina de sonido, si me ayudan a cambiar, gracias. So from this to the next one, I will just ask you, and if we can change it. And you all remember the same page. If you refresh it, we can ask the same question now. Will you now allow your students to use generative AI in your classroom? And I just want to see if there's something changed. Yes, awesome. And we have one answer, we can move ahead. It was a great conference. Now we'll see. But yeah, if you can answer all, we can just see what was happening. And if not, okay. I see that there's certain movement, and that's good. Remember how we were answering it a while ago or an hour ago. It was a little bit more skewed, and it is okay. If there's a no, it's perfectly fine. You don't have to. But at least let's consider how to be engaging with this technology that has been changing the world, will continue changing the world, and it will be part of our own day-to-day. So, allá atrás sí podemos regresar a la presentación, just as a wrap-up and to close the presentation. ¿Podemos regresar a la otra? And thank you for everyone else. So, in conclusion, lo que dijimos pero no dijimos, what we didn't say but, is that technology as well as the intentionality that you bring with it, matter. But together, they can help to enhance our teaching skills. The second key takeaway that I want you to take today is that it is impossible to substitute your expertise in English teaching with AI. We can use AI, but it will not take our jobs yet. Yet. But the other thing that is important to consider is that AI might not take our jobs, but somebody who knows how to use AI better than we do might. So let's start engaging with this technology. And the last one, and that there is no keynote speaker, there's no workshop, and there's no one that can teach you to use generative AI if you don't use it, right? And because it can be seen as a skill, if you practice and experiment with it, you will eventually master it. So thank you for all your time and presentation. And there's a QR code.
Thank you very much,
Thank you,
Paul
Gracias.
and Juan Antonio. We appreciate it. I'm going to ask everyone to remain in your seats, please. Remain in your seats. I have a few important announcements to make, and I need everyone's attention, please. First, for those of you who have not registered for any specific workshop for today, if you have not registered for any specific workshop, please remain in this hall for a few more minutes if you have not registered for any specific workshop. Now, those of you who have registered for specific workshops but have any questions regarding these workshops, please proceed to the registration tables and they will provide you with whatever answers or information you may need. Now, for everyone else, you can go ahead and proceed for the coffee break, okay? Now, please take advantage of the break to locate the workshops that you signed up for, and please be there by 11:10 a.m. Thank you.